Yes, people, yes, people, yes, people. Welcome back to the We Talk Football podcast. I'm joined once again by my guy, Kwaku Afari. How you doing, man?
I'm all good, man. All good. Enjoying the sun.
Yes, bro. It's been sunny for like a week. How much better is the world when everyone's getting a tan, everyone's getting that vitamin D? You know, the world's opening up after months of lockdown. Things are
Yeah.
starting to return to normal. Kwaku's working 7 days a week like an absolute workhorse. But apart from that, how are you feeling, bro?
Yeah, all good, man. Like I say, the world's a better place when the sun's out. Anybody who says they prefer winter is a psychopath, because the summer is clearly better and people are in a better mood. So yeah, everything's looking good and looking forward to Euros coming up in less than a week.
100. I was made for warmer climates, and again, yeah, we have the Euros to look forward to. I think it's football at the moment is incredible. We've had such a condensed season. We have the Euros, we have the next season, then we have the World Cup to look forward to. So, football at the moment, we are spoilt for choice. But just to kick off this episode, we've got something a little bit different, Kwaku. We're going to do a this or that section just to get us warmed up, just get us a little bit warmed up before we jump into the biggest news in football. Now, just to kick it off, prime Ronaldo or prime Henry?
Prime R9.
Prime R9, yeah? I did mean the Brazilian Ronaldo, yeah. So
Yeah.
you got, okay, any reason why?
Just his peak was just better. Just a better peak. I mean, he had a better career overall. Yeah, some would say, especially a club career. But in terms of his peak, before he done his knees in, R9 was arguably the greatest player this world's ever seen.
Okay. Now, Rashford or Sterling?
Sterling, Raheem Sterling. He's one of my favourite non-Chelsea players. I just love the journey of Raheem Sterling. He's been like the star boy, golden boy since the age of like 12, 13, 14, and he's fulfilled that potential, won multiple Premier Leagues. He's a top player. Guardiola's made him a better player. And I do rate Marcus Rashford as a player and as a person, but it's Raheem Sterling for me.
Okay. Foden or Mount?
Mason.
I mean, he's got the Champions League now, hasn't he?
Yeah, and like Phil Foden's arguably more talented, but I think at the end of the careers, I think Mason Mount would have a better overall career. But I'm biased as a Chelsea fan, obviously.
Okay, this one might be a bit harder for you. Azpilicueta or Zola?
I recently changed.
I know, that's what I'm asking.
Yes, so Zola's always been my favourite player, and he's always going to hold that special place in my heart because when I was younger, when I thought about football, I just thought about Zola. But Azpilicueta has been on the verge of being my favourite Chelsea player for a while. And I don't know what it was. It's just ever since he came in, he was just somebody that I latched onto, just does his job correctly, fills the club. And then after lifting the Champions League last week or like a couple of weeks ago, I just feel like he's surpassed Zola as my favourite ever Chelsea player. But Zola's always going to have that place in my heart.
Okay. And finally, Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp?
Pep Guardiola.
Pep Guardiola. Okay, well, we're warmed up, Kwaku. We're warmed up.
Yeah.
Now, let's go into the biggest news in football, our new segment that we're bringing to the channel over the summer while there's less Premier League games. Obviously, as we alluded to earlier, we've got the Euros that we're building up to. And to start off, Ben White being called into the squad over injured Trent Alexander-Arnold. What are you thinking about that, Quakes?
There's been such like a hoo-ha in terms of the amount of defenders and how pragmatic Southgate's being in terms of putting players in or selecting players based on fear as opposed to selecting the most attacking players and players that can help us win the tournament, which I don't really understand or agree with. Ben White had a good showing in the friendly. And although England didn't look that convincing, he looked good. And I feel like Southgate's mind was made up before that friendly. But I feel like selecting Ben White, if Harry Maguire is not fit, is not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, a lot of people calling for James Ward-Prowse to be selected just because of his prowess from set pieces, whether it be penalties or corners or free kicks. And inevitably, in the tournament, England are going to have to rely on the set piece because we know we always go to penalties. But Ben White's the solid selection. I just feel like everybody should get behind Southgate and the team because I feel like this negativity that surrounds England doesn't help anybody because we all know that the players hear the noise.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, we haven't done a video since the squad was announced. I think the squad itself, there's nothing you can really question. For me, even when he picked the four right backs, I think they were all there for a reason. And I think it's because the versatility got them all in the squad. They may play right back at their clubs, but respectively, they can play in multiple positions across the pitch. And, Gareth Southgate loves utility players, and he also loves players that have done it for him before. Ben White coming in for England, I think it's good, especially because I think he's a player that's got some longevity. You can see him playing a part at the World Cup next year and then at future tournaments going forward, unless there's an emergence of a ridiculous centre-back in England over the next few years. It is tough on James Ward-Prowse because I do think his dead ball ability in terms of, being able to whip in crosses, even his free kick ability. I think you'll struggle to find many players in the world that are actually better at him than doing that. But saying so, when you look at the squad that the squad that England have, I don't put James Ward-Prowse in there to start. I don't know if he gets many minutes, and the players are above him. They're going to get the lion's share. I don't see him going in above, maybe above Calvin Phillips, but I don't see him going in there above Henderson or Declan Rice personally. So Ben White, we are light at centre-back. He didn't pick many centre-backs. He picked 3. And I can completely understand, and I'm not even angry at it. I think it's tough on Jesse Lingard as well, just to give Jesse a shout. Obviously, he's had a good second half of the season with West Ham. Did okay in the England camps and everything. But, I'm not angry at the Ben White shout. And I agree. I think all this negativity that's surrounding Gareth Southgate at every junction where, people just jump on whatever he says, I don't think that's going to help the team. And I don't think it's going to help England win a tournament for the first time in 60 years, nearly. So, yeah, totally agree with you, mate.
It's with it as well. It's just like Southgate, the only thing that you could probably criticise him for is that he's backed himself into a corner by selecting 2 players in Maguire and Henderson who aren't fully fit. And the reason why Ben White's selected is because we've seen him play centre-back for the majority of the season, and we've seen him fill in the centre midfield as well. So I feel like Southgate's protecting himself there. So that's the only criticism we could have of Southgate, because we've seen it with England historically. Selecting players who are injured before a tournament just never really works out for England managers, Arsene Wenger and Eriksson. And Ben White's selection kind of makes sense in terms of cover for those 2 positions for experienced players who are hobbling going into this tournament.
100%. Well, moving on to some Premier League news. Obviously, this morning, the biggest transfer news, being reported by Sky Sports is Haaland, or Erling Braut Haaland, I should say, to Chelsea. What are your thoughts on that, Quaker? And what do you think the likelihood of that happening is?
I don't know. I don't want to get myself too excited or too invested in the striker merry-go-round, because I was very much in the Lukaku camp. And I think there was a shared sentiment that there was going to be a carousel of striker moves this summer. And that hasn't really materialised, and the Euros kicks off in less than a week. So obviously Harry Kane, we all know that he wants to move, and Haaland's agent's been shopping him out to all the major clubs in Europe. But I'm just not sure if those moves actually happen this summer. We'll see. I think it'll take one big move for the rest of it to kind of topple. But with Haaland to Chelsea, obviously we all know Chelsea are in the market for a striker. Haaland would be perfect for Chelsea. Obviously he's very young, but he's got the attributes to suit the Premier League. But I just don't want to get myself too invested in that Haaland story, because we've seen him linked with Man City heavily, with Manchester United, with Chelsea, with Barcelona, with Real Madrid. Like, he's going to be linked with all the big clubs in the world. It's just really who pulls out checkbook to actually get Haaland, and who really convinces Borussia Dortmund to sell Haaland in the summer, which looks like they're going to sell Jadon Sancho as well. So it's a story that's going to continue for the rest of the summer. But Haaland to Chelsea, I hope it happens, but I'm not that convinced.
Totally. I mean, as a neutral, I want to see the Sancho deal happen. I want to see the Haaland deal happen. If I had the chance to see these great football players playing in the Premier League as a neutral, you just want to see that. But as a West Ham fan, the thought of playing against Chelsea when they've got Haaland up top, I mean, Chelsea are a great side. Let's not beat around the bush. Obviously, they were quite blunt this year in terms of, you need a striker. Let's be honest. Unfortunately, Werner didn't perform to the levels that you would like. I know he facilitated the teams in different ways. But if you sign Lukaku or Haaland, I think, that's generally it's a title push in my eyes. And Chelsea aren't a million miles away. Let's be honest. They've just won the Champions League. Speaking of Harry Kane, it's just popped up on Sky Sports News, actually. Apparently, Daniel Levy will demand a cash-only deal of at least 150 million for Harry Kane. What do you think about that, man?
It doesn't surprise me that he's come out and said it's a cash only deal. I don't think in the history of football, really, like people were to want to throw in, oh, we can trade this and trade this and trade assets, but it's not the NBA. I think the last time a massive deal happened where players were involved as well as cash was Ashley Cole and William Gallas in like 2006. Like that doesn't really happen in football, so it doesn't surprise me that Levy's saying cash only because cash is king in football. And the price is there to be negotiated. I don't know. I haven't actually read the quotes from Daniel Levy in terms of the price tag for Harry Kane, but if that is the case, he's set his marker, and that's to be negotiated. Whether it's going to be that marker or whether it's going to be less or more depends on the buyer, depends on the market. But yeah, Harry Kane is invaluable to Tottenham Hotspur, so they're going to want to recoup as much as possible for their starlets.
Yeah, okay, that's I completely agree with you. Nothing I can really add on that. Moving on to the next big story that's also been put on Sky Sports this morning. Jack Grealish to Man City. What are your thoughts on that one?
It's an interesting one because Jack Grealish is one of these players mercurial. Like he's one of these players that people want to watch, like he's box office.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily know if he's a Man City player, but I wouldn't have said Raheem Sterling before Pep Guardiola was a Man City player, but Pep's molded Raheem into the kind of player that's effective in his system. And maybe he'll do the same with Jack Grealish. But we've seen Jack Grealish play for not only Aston Villa, but for England as well. And he's a player that loves a lot of the ball. He demands attention when he's on the pitch. And we see Pep Guardiola teams, it's very much 1-2 touch, pass, move. And that's not necessarily Jack Grealish's style of play. But I'm not saying that he wouldn't succeed at Man City. It's just that it would be interesting to see. But in terms of Man City, it's a strange one that they've been linked to Jack Grealish because their priority, as is with Chelsea, is looking for a striker, somebody who can put the ball in the back of the net. And I feel like they've got a lot of players at Man City that can kind of assimilate what Jack Grealish does. So if he goes there, I'm sure he'll be a success. But it's an interesting link because I think Man City have got priorities in other areas.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And that also draws on to another point. Obviously, in line with the annual Premier League release list of all players that have their contracts ending at the end of June, Fernandinho is actually named on that last Friday of having his contract expiring at the end of June. And if they let him go, obviously he's played an important role for them this year. I would look at bringing in a replacement for him before, bringing in someone like Jack Grealish when they've got so many flamboyant attackers going forward. The one thing that I do know is that you look at the players that the players that have come to Man City in recent years, people like Raheem Sterling, and his game has been completely galvanized. He's completely transformed him as a player and improved him in so many ways. The thought of Jack Grealish having his game improved anymore by Pep Guardiola, well, the ceiling is so high for him, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, he's already performing at astronomical levels at Aston Villa. And if he can replicate that at Man City and get a decent, string of appearances in the team, then the ceiling is ridiculously high. But what are your thoughts on Fernandinho? Obviously, there's been no official announcement from Man City or Fernandinho about it. And I don't think, there's a chance that he could renew his contract. But what are your thoughts on that, mate?
Obviously, he'll be a huge miss for Man City if he is to be released. I think they're going to sort something out, though. I think that for the last 2-3 seasons, it's been like that. Fernandinho, I guess at summer, it's like, is he going to stay? Is he going to go? Is he going to retire? I think they're going to sort something out. I think next season will be his last season in Man City. But it's crazy that like this fallout or this is magnified after he didn't start in the Champions League final. So I think it's become a bigger story than maybe it actually is. I think they'll sort something out because if they weren't going to, then he would have had a bigger send-off and a bigger goodbye because he's a Man City legend and arguably could have a statue alongside Vincent Kompany and Sergio Aguero and David Silva when they do eventually mount those statues. So I think they'll sort something out. Next season will be his last season. But if they were to lose him, it'd be a huge loss. And it'd be a huge loss to the Premier League as well because pound for pound, he's the greatest Brazilian player to ever play in the Premier League.
Yeah.
And yeah, he's fantastic. You saw when he came on against Chelsea in the Champions League final, the game changed. He just brings that essence of calm, control, and also is a very savvy player. You don't really have that anymore in terms of winning fouls and just not getting booked for a lot of the fouls he commits.
Yeah, I was going to say that. Yeah, he's savvy.
Yeah, so he's. I think they're going to sort something out for him. But if they do lose him this summer, there's going to be a huge loss for Man City.
Yeah, that's what I mean. If they lose him, then I don't think Jack Grealish happens. Well, it might do, but I think if they lose him, that needs to be their main thing to try and replace because I don't know who they've got in their squad that can fill the the Fernandinho role to the level that he plays. And I know it's hard to replace players of that stature. You know, you don't replace Sergio Aguero, you probably don't replace Fernandinho, but you need to buy someone that can try and facilitate that role. And I know they've got Rodri, but they'll need someone else as well. But yeah, guys, that's this video. Kwaku, where can they find us?
You can find us at on Instagram at We Talk Football Podcast. You can find us on Twitter at WTF Podcast 90. You can find us on YouTube at We Talk Football Podcast. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to the We Talk Football Podcast. I know the season's finished, but the Euros is just about to kick off. Going to be coming with about 1 or 2 videos a week, so make sure you keep your eyes peeled for that. And we're on Spotify, we're on Apple Podcasts, so make sure you check us out.
Cheers, guys. Catch you next time.